When you hear the word idol, what comes to mind? Perhaps you picture an ancient statue, a golden calf gleaming in the desert sun, a carved figure of wood or stone sitting silently in a forgotten temple. For many of us, idolatry feels like a problem from a faraway time. It's a chapter in an old history book, a story about people who lived thousands of years ago. We read about them and think, I would never do that. I would never bow down to an object made by human hands. And in that specific way, most of us are probably right. We don't have little shrines in our homes dedicated to statues, but what if idols are sneakier than that? What if they don't always come in the form of gold or stone? An idol is anything that takes God's place in your heart. It is anything that becomes the main focus of your life, the thing you think about most, worry about most, and work for the hardest. It's the thing you can't imagine living without. It could be something good like your family or your job. But when that good thing becomes the ultimate thing, it quietly becomes an idol. It's a subtle shift, a slow creep into the throne room of your heart where only God belongs. These modern idols are clever. They wear disguises. They don't announce themselves with a loud trumpet. Instead they whisper. They promise security, happiness, or importance. An idol can be your reputation. You work so hard to make sure everyone thinks well of you. You live in fear of what others might say. An idol can be your comfort. You arrange your entire life to avoid any kind of hardship or inconvenience. Your peace depends not on God, but on your circumstances being just right. These idols are not made of wood, but they are just as real, and they demand just as much of our worship. So, the question is not whether we bow down to statues. The real question is, what sits on the throne of our lives? What do we truly serve? God made us to worship Him, to find our complete joy and purpose in Him. When we place something or someone else in that number one spot, we are choosing a lesser God. We are giving our devotion to something that was never meant to carry that weight. It's a heavy burden for a created thing to act like the Creator. And it's a heavy burden for us to carry when we place our ultimate hope in things that can rust, break, or disappear. Consider the story of a woman whose house caught on fire. The flames began in the garage and smoke started to fill the air. Everyone scrambled to get out, to find safety away from the danger. But as the family gathered on the lawn, the woman suddenly turned around. She ran back toward the burning garage. Why? Was she saving a child? A beloved pet? No, she was trying to save her new car. For a moment, a machine made of metal and plastic became more important than her own life. That car had become more than just transportation. It had become an idol she was willing to risk everything for. This is what idols do. They distort our thinking. They make us value the wrong things. We might not run into a burning building for our possessions, but we might do other things. Think about the constant desire for more. The world tells us we need the newest phone, the latest computer, the next gadget. We stand in long lines or spend hours online chasing that feeling of having the very best. And for a little while it feels good. But soon, a newer model comes out and the one we have feels old and slow. The chase begins all over again. This endless cycle of wanting more, of covetousness, is a form of worship. The Apostle Paul saw this danger clearly. He wrote to the church in Colossae and gave them a strong warning. In his letter he made a direct link that might surprise us. He said, and greed, which is idolatry. That's from Colossians chapter 3, verse 5. Paul didn't mince words. He didn't say greed was like idolatry. He said it is idolatry. That grasping for more, that feeling of I must have it, is the very heart of worship directed at the wrong thing. It's a declaration that what we have is not enough, and that God is not enough to satisfy the deepest longings of our souls. We look to things to give us what only God can provide. This trap isn't just about things you can buy, it can even creep into our spiritual lives. A person might become obsessed with their religious activities. They volunteer for everything at church, not out of a pure love for God and others, but because they love the reputation it gives them. They want to be seen as the most spiritual, the most dedicated. Their service becomes a way to build their own monument, a way to feel good about themselves. The activity itself is good, but the motive behind it has turned it into an idol of self-righteousness. The focus shifts from serving God to being seen serving. At the end of the day, idolatry is a heart problem. It's about what we love, what we trust, and what we fear. Jesus said, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." That's from Matthew chapter 6, verse 21. This simple truth is a powerful tool for finding the hidden idols in our own lives. To find your treasure, you just have to follow your heart. What do you think about when your mind is free to wander? What do you worry about when you lie awake at night? What brings you the greatest joy or the deepest despair? The answers to these questions point directly to the treasures of your heart. If your treasure is your financial security, your heart will be with your bank account. You will check it constantly. You will feel anxious when it goes down and joyful when it goes up. Your peace will rise and fall with the stock market. If your treasure is the approval of others, your heart will be with their opinions. You will replay conversations in your head, wondering if you said the right thing. You will feel crushed by criticism and puffed up by praise. Your sense of worth will be in the hands of other people, who are just as flawed as you are. These things become functional gods. An idol makes a promise it cannot keep. Money promises security, but it can be lost in an instant. Success promises fulfillment, but it often leaves people feeling empty. Relationships promise perfect happiness, but people will inevitably let us down. Only God can offer true, lasting security and fulfillment. He is the only one who will never leave us or forsake us. He is the only one whose love is perfect and whose promises are certain. When we place our trust in anything else, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. We are leaning on a crutch that is bound to break. This is not to say that we shouldn't have nice things or good jobs or loving families. These are all gifts from God, meant to be enjoyed. The problem arises when the gift becomes more important than the giver. It's the difference between enjoying a warm fire and worshiping it. We are meant to be stewards of God's gifts, not slaves to them. The key is to hold them loosely, to be thankful for them, but to have our ultimate hope and identity firmly planted in God alone. He is the source of every good thing, and our hearts will only find their true rest when they find it in Him. So, what do? How do we break free from these hidden idols? The Apostle Paul doesn't just point out the problem, he gives us the solution. He tells us to put to death the parts of our old nature, like greed, and to put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge, in the image of its Creator. That's from Colossians chapter 3, verse 10. This is a picture of a deliberate daily choice. It's like taking off old, dirty clothes and putting on a fresh, clean set. It doesn't happen by accident. You have to decide to do it every single day. Putting off the old self means actively turning away from our idols. When you feel the pull of worry about money, you intentionally turn your thoughts to God's promise to provide. When you are tempted to find your worth in your accomplishments, you deliberately remind yourself that your value comes from being a child of God. It is a battle fought in the mind and heart. It means saying no to the loud demands of your idols and saying yes to the gentle voice of your Father. It's a process of starving the idols and feeding your relationship with Him. Putting on the new self is about filling that empty space with something better. It's about focusing our hearts and minds on Jesus. Paul says to set your hearts on things above, where Christ is. That's from Colossians chapter 3, verse 1. When your focus is on Him, the idols of this world start to lose their shine. They look small and cheap in comparison to the glory and beauty of Christ. Spending time in prayer, reading His Word, and gathering with other believers helps to recenter your heart. It's like calibrating a compass. You are constantly adjusting your life to point toward Him as your true north. This journey is not about perfection. It is about direction. You will stumble. Old habits will try to creep back in. But God's grace is sufficient for every misstep. The goal is to get back up, ask for forgiveness, and refocus your heart once more. Take a moment today for a quiet heart check. Ask yourself honestly, what are my idols? What am I treasuring more than God? Be brave enough to answer, then ask God to help you put those things down, and to help you find your all in Him. He is the only treasure that will never fade, break, or disappoint. He is the only one worthy of your worship.